me. Sorry about that. So I'm sure those of you in this room who are parents often wonder how you're doing as a parent. And I remember a little while back, I asked one of my daughters, I looked deep into her eyes and I said, Megan, do you think I'm a bad mother? She looked deep into my eyes and said, my name is Sarah. Today, I know you're waiting for this, is National Gumbo Day. This is a heavily seasoned stew-like dish. It originated in southern Louisiana during the 18th century. Usually it has strongly flavored stock, meat or shellfish, a thickener, and seasoned vegetables. And the combination of celery, bell peppers, and onions, which in Cajun cuisine is considered the Holy Trinity. And you also want to know the name gumbo arose from a West African word for okra. That's why I don't eat it. So we will proceed. We'll begin the meeting with a verse of America. Our invitation today.
Please bow your heads. Not what we say about our blessings, but how we use them is the true measure of our thanksgiving. So let us be thankful for our meal, our lives, our friends, and our many blessings. And then let us use each to fuel positive change around us.
Thank you. You may be seated. We have only one guest today, and our guest is Farron Barr from Topeka South Rotary, so let's give him a warm downtown Rotary welcome. This month's featured charity, as you know, is Polio Plus, and pending Foundation Board approval, which I'm hopeful for, every dollar that you give in the cup this month will go to Polio Plus. Now, usually we divide that equally throughout the year, but we thought this was a very special month, so hopefully, I'm very optimistic that this will be the case. We have a number of announcements today. First of all, I need to let you know some unfortunate news. Yesterday afternoon, one of our members, Rebecca Crotty, was in a bicycle accident, was hit by an elderly driver. She suffered a crushed tibia and also a knee injury. She had surgery yesterday. She is at Stormont, so if you'd want to reach out to her and say hello or send a card or at least send up your prayers, that would be wonderful. And Jim McCullough, if you would come forward for an announcement.
Just a reminder that today is the last day to purchase a ticket for our awesome peace party that we're going to be having in this very room next Tuesday evening. Doors open at 6. The buffet begins at 6:30. Among our honorees this year are 3 Rotarians. Zach Ahrens, who's done some wonderful work at this Capital Journal as the president, CEO, publisher. Kathleen Marker, who's done a marvelous job taking over as CEO of the YWCA, and we're honoring them for the work that they do with the Center for Safety and Empowerment. Empowerment, safety, whichever one comes first. And then also John Christensen and his wife, who have just been community volunteers from day one here in Topeka. So these are just a few of our honorees that will be lifting up in our party on Tuesday evening right here in this room. So I have tickets today if you'd like to purchase. Also, you can see Edie, who might not have them right at the moment, but she can get them from me. So, hope to see you here Tuesday night. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. And we have our weekly Polio Plus moment. If Sam would come forward and talk to us about that. Exciting news.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. How are you all today? Good. Fine, Sam. Great. Okay. I'm here today as your Polio Plus chairman, and I have some exciting news to tell you here in a little bit. Last week we had two folks, Mike Hollow and my wife Janelle, gave you a couple of Polio Plus stories, and they're doing very well on the fundraising. But before we get to that, I have a fellow Rotarian here, Kathleen Marker, and Kathleen has a Polio story she would like to share with you. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her and let her tell you her story.
So I too today will probably be giving away my age. If you were here last week, you know what I'm talking about. So my mother was a Holocaust survivor and a war bride, and my father was a firefighter. And this was after serving in the Marines in World War II and in Korea. And my parents were in their late 20s, and they were living in Kansas City. And they moved to a bigger house because they were expecting their third child, and that was me. Both of them contracted the polio virus when I was 2 months old. First my mother, and then my father. After the initial onset, my father survived unscathed. My mother wasn't so lucky. She spent some time in an iron lung, I think between 3 and 4 months in an iron lung. For a long time I thought that I was there and that I visited the hospital and saw my mother in this iron lung. But what my memory was actually the pictures of my brother and sister who were taken to the hospital and were looking through the windows of the basement of St. Joseph Hospital in Kansas City as my mother was in the iron lung because she really needed to see her children, and I was too young. She spent some time in the iron lung, was released from the hospital when I was 5 months old. Because of the weakness in her muscles on the left side of her body, she couldn't hold me, she couldn't carry me. She had fear of losing her balance most of her life. As a baby, she was afraid of dropping me. Thankfully, we had grandparents that were a wonderful support system and who took care of us. More than 30 years later, my mother was dealing with post-polio syndrome. And not a lot of people know about post-polio syndrome. It primarily affects polio survivors who develop polio as an adolescent or as a young adult. The greater your recovery after acute polio, which my mother's was a pretty great recovery, the more likely it seemed that post-polio syndrome will develop. She received treatment here in Topeka by Dr. Sharon McKinney. I don't know if any of you know Dr. Sharon McKinney, but she specializes in rehabilitative medicine. Dr. McKinney was a polio survivor herself. She practiced medicine from a wheelchair. I remember taking my mother to a visit and her explaining that most polio survivors, grew up with the idea that they needed to be strong, that they needed to push forward, that they needed to really advocate for themselves in terms of building strength. What they learned years later with post-polio syndrome is that that's not always the best treatment in terms of post-polio syndrome because you've worn out those neurons and they start to die. When you think about a tree with the branches starting to shrivel, that's what's happening with those nerve endings, those newly developed ones after polio. So in 1996, I was working in banking and my boss suggested that I join a civic organization. So I visited the Kiwanis, I visited the Optimists, and I visited a Rotary. On my first visit to Rotary, I heard about the Polio Plus campaign and the Polio Plus program of the Rotary Foundation. So my decision was pretty clear, and so that's why I'm a Rotarian. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. we're on a time schedule here, so let me give you some terrific news. You may remember last week we had a math lesson about what your Polio Plus contribution can turn into. At the time, it was about 4.5 times. And so now we have some new news that now your Polio Plus gift, even the ones that have been given, just as long as it was done in October, the multiplier now is 6. So, and I'll tell you that a week or so ago, we were about $6,300 after our meeting last week. Through this week, we were, the last count we had was $8,063. And at 6 times that, if you do 6 times 8, you're going to get, well, I don't think you're going to get,
I don't think I got it.
that's okay. I think that'll be about 46.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that? Now, the really good news is, as I was told when I sat down to eat my lunch, that now some contributions came in the door today through through the front desk over here, and we are over $10,000 so far in Polio Plus contributions. And I want to thank each of you for that. I stand corrected, it's over $11,000, so thank you all so much. You're more than halfway to our goal of $20,000. Thank you so much. Now, we also have a list of people, real quickly, who are within $500 or less of getting to their next Paul Harris Award level, so you want to keep that in mind. And Linda has a list of them, and some of you have taken advantage of that, so I want you to remember that the money you give to Polio Plus can also be used towards your Paul Harris Award or additional awards, so that's something else to keep in mind. So again, thank you all so much for your contributions. The 6 times is awesome. We're going to make this goal. Polio Plus World Day is October 24th, and I'd like to have the 20,000 or more in by then, and we'll have something to celebrate on the 26th. So thanks again.
You saw the little Polio Plus pins that are hidden on my shirt. Anyway, they're around, so please pick one of those up and wear that at least during the month of October. Our guest today, Farron Barr, is from Keith South and has an announcement about their polio effort. We're all in this together, so we really want to share the work that we do.
Good afternoon. As Grace said, I'm with Topeka South Rotary, and I am the race director for our 5th annual Pumpkin Run. Last year we raised over $7,500 for Polio Plus with our Pumpkin Run, and we're looking to get even more than that this year. We had 143 people that participated. I'm looking for 175, and I need your help. So if you can sign up, the registration forms are online. If you sign up by midnight on the 14th, you'll get to participate for 25 bucks a piece. After that, it goes to 30. And we do have shirts. We have a costume contest. We have lots of people showing up in really colorful outfits, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I've already looked at the weather. The weather is going to be beautiful because it's going to be on October 28th at 8:30 in the morning. You can pre-register starting at 7:30, or you can come in on Friday and do packet pickup or register on Friday at Gary Griddle's, and that will be between 4 and 6. So please come out. I know a few of you have already signed up, and I'm looking forward to several more. So we would love to see you there on that Saturday morning.
Is a member of Topeka South. He said Farron's very enthusiastic, and he was telling me the truth about that. I want to give you a very quick and final update from the Freedom Festival. We are missing one tiny piece of information, but for today we'll call this good. Between the Freedom Festival and the raffle, which happened earlier this year, we have netted a total of, $28,612.02. So I am so proud of all of you. Is Eric Grosbridge here? No, okay, he just got back from vacation. One quick announcement, Lee Morris brought some homegrown tomatoes, and they are available for you if you would like before you leave today. Thank you, Lee. I will enjoy this. Our speaker today will be introduced by Katie Kukal.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure today to introduce the president of AT&T Kansas, Mike Scott. Happens to be my boss, so be nice. As president of AT&T Kansas, Mike oversees the company's local, state, and federal government relations efforts in Kansas. He also works closely with community and business leaders, elected officials, and other folks at AT&T to continue to bring advanced communications technologies to Kansas consumers and businesses. Mike has worked at AT&T for over 32 years. He's originally from Hayes. He graduated from K-State in 1976 with a degree in journalism and mass communications. He is married to his high school sweetheart, Nancy. Together they have 2 grown sons, 5 grandkids, and 1 on the way. Please give Mike a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate it. It must not be a very easy task to do to introduce your boss, but I'm hopeful that I can do a good job for her and also for AT&T up here today. It's my pleasure to be here. Katie's going to run a little slideshow for you, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about not specifically too much AT&T. I don't really want to make this AT&T commercial, but I want to tell you about the building of the network that we're undergoing right now and will continue to undergo for a long, long time, as are many other communications companies as well. So we can go ahead and get started. I'm proud of the history that AT&T has in Kansas. We've been in operation. This is our 138th year. We go way, way, way back, and we started as a lot of you remember AT&T, then became Southwestern Bell, then became SBC Communications, and now we thought our chairman, Ed Whitaker, who used to have the Kansas president's title here in Topeka, he said that he liked the name of AT&T best of all, so we switched back to AT&T. And I'm hopeful that we will stay that way for a long, long time. But as you know, Topeka is our state headquarters for AT&T, and I'm just thrilled that we've been able to be, in my opinion, anyway, such a viable and important member of this community, and I don't see that changing for a long, long time. So let's get into a little bit about what I wanted to talk with you today, if I could, and it's just how we communicate with each other. It's clear that things are changing rapidly, really just too fast almost to keep up with, and you'll hear me say this a number of times today, the consumers are what's driving this. It's not just us wanting to invest for out of the goodness of our heart, so to speak, and other communications companies too. They want to keep up with what the consumers want. And that's what we're here to do, and I'm going to be able to talk to you a little bit today about how we're doing that. So, a little bit of history lesson here. This is a slide that it's not good for us, but I think it's really good for the consumer. Landlines. How many people still have a landline? Yeah, that's a good number. You know, usually I'll ask that. And Carl, did you raise your hand?
No, sir.
Yeah. The number is just staggering. We've lost. This says 67% since from 2001 to 2015. But truth be told, it's hovering now downward around the 80%. So most people have cut the cord, so to speak, and that's what they want, and we're trying to meet that demand. So as we go to the next slide, we'll see that conversely, the data usage has increased on our network to the tune of about 250,000% increase in about that same time period that I talked to you about the landlines going down. Data usage is going up, and if you can read that, you'll see that 60% of the data usage is video. So video is what's driving our network and driving our marketing operations, and we're trying to develop new apps and services and introduce those, and the data use, this number is just going to rise and rise and rise. So, we're long past the days of the rotary telephone. It's easy to see, and actually we're long past the days of landlines, to tell you the truth. But we're still in that business, so we're the ones to come to, hopefully, if you need a landline still these days. But mobile and internet-based technologies are powering our brand new innovations, and we'll talk about a little bit about connected cars and smart cities, and something that we like to call the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, it's just it's the connection of everyday objects to a communications network. They're estimated to be, and this isn't our term, you'll hear that a lot going forward in the future, 50 billion connected devices by the year 2020. It's just amazing how everything will be connected to the communications network. So we're trying to get ready for that. And I think what we'll do now is show you a very short video that can explain it probably a lot better than I can about the Internet of Things.
Just use that.
Minimize dialogue. Pull down.
Somebody had an idea. Here.
You'll have a seamless places, events, and people in your life. This is AT&T, mobilizing your world. In this world, technology makes you at just the right moment and tells you to leave the house early when there's heavy traffic. Then gets your car for your commute and adjusts your thermostat. As your home wakes up, it automatically calculates how to use energy most efficiently. Clothes and dishes are washed when it saves you money and uses less power. As you get ready, your calendar and social media notifications are automatically updated and delivered. When you work out, your performance is compared to past efforts. Your health and vital signs are analyzed, and your accomplishments are uploaded to the cloud and shared. Overnight, your car automatically downloads the latest maps, so in the morning, you're ready to roll. As you leave the house and car stay connected. Your security system sets and your thermostat lowers. Out on the road, lampposts become intelligent devices that monitor conditions for neighborhood safety and help cities manage energy. And in case of delays, your meeting schedule is automatically loaded, so you can pull over and join that important meeting from the car. Paying for lunch is that easy. And you know your food is fresh and safe because it's been monitored throughout shipping. In the store, your grocery list is visualized. And you select from fresh vegetables grown with the optimal nutrient values. When it's time to go, your car automatically arrives at just the right spot to pick you up. In the future, the connected lifestyle will be safer, more efficient, more secure, and do more fully. So you can have time for the people and things that matter most. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Thank you, Katie. That'll give you a good idea about the Internet of Things, and that's not futuristic. You know, those are things that are happening today. So, if we could now, we'll turn a little bit into a new realm that AT&T is getting into, and again, it's being driven by our consumers. we're an entertainment company now. First and foremost. You know, it's hard to think of old stodgy AT&T and Southwestern Bell as an internet company, but indeed we are. It's what goes over our network most, to tell you the truth. 80% of what people utilize on their mobile devices is termed as entertainment. So we figured we really needed to develop a new kind of entertainment for this connected generation. So along those lines, that's why we bought our DirecTV to get into the video business, to go along with our already established landline video product called Uverse. And we're trying to buy Time Warner at this time. Time Warner is a major conglomerate of entertainment and content companies. For example, HBO is owned by Time Warner. You've got Warner Brothers Entertainment with all these movie products like Harry Potter. You've got the Turner broadcasting system with TNT and TBS and CNN. And so we're trying to get that one passed by President Trump, but I don't know if he'll approve the CNN part of it. But anyway, we're hopeful that he'll look at the whole total package and say, yeah, let's do that. But so the main reason we're buying AT&T, or AT&T's buying Time Warner, we want to get the most content. In our business, content is king. If you have we have the pipe, you know, in order to get the signal, but we don't have the content right now. We, like all the other providers, have to buy that at this time. So now we figured if we could perhaps purchase Time Warner, we'll be able to own a large piece of that content pie. So we're really working to do that. Next, you'll see, again, the generational gap that I'm a part of, but I don't do much over-the-top streaming of video, but a lot of people do. And so we have a product that we're just introducing, and last year we started, called DirecTV Now. This is for that younger generation that they don't want to watch TV on a big screen. They want to have it on a mobile device. So our version of what we call streaming video is called DirecTV Now, and it really allows you to do. You know, a lot of people have cut our cord. This allows video customers to cut the cord on your cable box. So it's again, it's not for everybody. It's more for a transient type of consumer, or one that just maybe doesn't want to have its satellite dish put on their house. And so this is going over very, very well. We just released some numbers today on our DirecTV Now subscriptions in the last year, and it's really impressive. So how we do this, though, you've got to invest. You know, we're just like a lot of companies that know that in order to stay competitive, you've got to invest in where you work and where you play. And so, well, you know, of course, I'm really proud of this fact. We invest more nationwide than any other public company. So that's $140 billion in the last 4 years that we've done. So there's a lot of investment that's going on. But I'm also glad to say that a large part of that has come to Kansas. We fight like everybody else does to get those investment dollars, and we've been able to land some really nice network improvement projects for Kansas, and I'll talk about one of those here in just a little bit. But more than $775 million we've invested right here in Kansas from 2014 to 2016, and a lot of that is going through the wireless portion of our network. That's what we're trying out. You know, landlines and our wireline products. We still have wireline and fiber, you know, obviously to businesses primarily, but we also offer that to the residential customers. So over 600 upgrades we've made in just 2016 alone in order to upgrade and keep competitive in what our consumers are wanting. So I had somebody ask me yesterday, did an interview, that we talked about what were your biggest challenges. Rural broadband is such an important part, I think, of the piece of the puzzle for the entire nation, but obviously here in Kansas, it's a big deal for us, and it's a challenge. Everybody knows who drives in Kansas. There's dead spots on the wireless signal and places you can't get internet service. So we're trying very hard in order to be able to fill in all those gaps and provide good rural broadband service. One of the ways we've done this, again, Kansas stands out because we're only one of the few states in our company that have availed ourselves to this money we call the Connect America Fund. It's a federally funded program, and we're, like a lot of public companies, not used to taking federal money, but and this one, it'll help defray a lot of the costs for this rural broadband, but we're really pleased with the fact that 35,000 additional homes in Kansas will be now have broadband and fast broadband service based on this Connect America Fund that in Kansas will have $19 million for the next 6 years, $19 million each year for the next 6 years in order to build out that rural broadband. Now, how we're doing this is really fascinating technology to me. And again, one reason I want to tout it is because it's called AT&T Fixed Wireless Internet. This is a product that we've introduced in Kansas and in other parts of the country, but we trialed it right here in the state of Kansas. And so when this is back on the drawing boards and then you take it out to the field trials, Colby, Kansas was where we tried this out, and it worked to great effect. And so we thought, yeah, this is ready to go and take nationwide. So we were able to have this fixed wireless, and it's a hybrid of terrestrial and wireless technology. You can see that you have a little pizza box sized box is actually what it is, antenna on your house. It's not like a big satellite dish, and you don't point it towards a satellite, you point it towards a cell tower, and it gets its broadband signal from the cell tower, and it just feeds into your house and your internal wiring just like a normal broadband connection does. So this will really be a game changer for a lot of folks in the rural part of the state and of the nation. Another thing we're trying out, and this is still in the trial, is broadband over power lines. This is a technology that AT&T Labs has developed, and it doesn't run through the lines themselves, but it runs along or near the wire. So this is a really cheap way and a really good way, to tell you the truth, once we get all the bugs worked out of it, to get broadband out again to the rural parts of the country. And it'll work obviously as well in urban settings as well. But so you don't have to bury new cables. It's, you've got all these power lines going and to the last mile. That's mainly the most expensive part of rural broadband, is to get it to the last mile to the consumer's home. So look for it's called Project AirGig. And so I'd ask you to look for that in the not too distant future. We're trying to get it ready to go by 2020, where we'll just partner with a power company, and we'll ask to retrofit it with our equipment, and we'll be able to put these broadband signals running down electric wires. Next is something I'm really proud of here in our state. It's called FirstNet. This is a national mobile broadband program and network for first responders. You may have read about it in August. Kansas Governor Brownback he opted into this, and this is a kind of a legal procedure that you have to do in order to get this and for us to build a network. So we have the national contract, and now we were tasked with getting all 50 states and 5 territories in the District of Columbia to opt into it. And I'm proud to say that Governor Brownback saw the definite benefits for the public safety community, and we will, in a matter of 5 years, we'll build out more broadband and wireless broadband specifically in order to help public safety. Those are your first responders that are out there, and that'll be another tool we'll use not only for them, most importantly, but also to help out in the rural broadband challenge as well. So how do we do this? As Katie said, a lot of our business here in our office, in our shop, we work a lot with state legislatures and with the federal folks as well. And again, the Kansas legislature has been very good in passing forward-thinking policy that allows us to invest. In the last 6 years, we've had 2 deregulation bills that have put, we used to be regulated like a power company is now, not like any other utility, but we have so much competition. I think everybody will agree that there's so much competition now that in the legislature's infinite wisdom, and at least in my opinion, that they pass these dereg bills and allows us to compete, which allows us to invest and offer the latest and greatest in technology. So very thankful for our work in the Kansas legislature. It's very important work that we do, and I know a lot of other businesses feel that same way. And then last, federally, it's a challenge. There's some important legislation going through the Congress this year and hopefully next chief among them for us, and I will be the other businesses as well, and even individuals, tax reform. We're watching that very closely, hoping that tax reform gets passed in some way, shape, or fashion this session, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that. But there's other federal issues that communications companies like us look at very closely, like net neutrality or privacy or security, things like that. So that's a quick rundown of what we're up to, and as we try to build our network for tomorrow. And I appreciate everybody, your attention on this, and it's been my pleasure to speak with you. And if this clock's right, it looks like we may have a couple of minutes left for questions, Grace. If not, thank you very much.
I think we have time for a couple of questions if you have them.
Yes. Let me ask you, with all this technology, do you ever see a time when there won't be telephone lines and telephone poles and all these transformers throughout the state of Kansas?
Well, since we're such a rural state, I don't envision that, but you know, all of our signal is going wirelessly now, and that trend is going to continue. But you still have to feed those cell towers with fiber, you know, with a terrestrial part of your network. So I don't see them honestly going away altogether, but you'll see less and less of them in the not too distant future. Yes, sir.
Cybersecurity is a big concern to me. You know, when you look at the potential vulnerabilities of all of the technology infrastructure in the country, what's being done to address that potential risk going forward?
I can think of a couple of things. One, that FirstNet network I just mentioned will have a huge impact on cybersecurity. The Kansas Fusion Center, I'm sure some of you have heard about it. You know, we work hand in hand with them as far as the state's cybersecurity going on. But on a national front, and this is an area that I'm not totally well versed in, but you know, we deal a lot with the folks in the federal arena as far as cybersecurity. So I don't have any particulars on that. I know it's of utmost importance. And I was at a meeting last week where they said two things to really get aware of and become more familiar with in the very near future would be cybersecurity, and it would be the privacy issues.
And I guess related to that, how intertwined is the communications technology with our power grid and its vulnerabilities? You know, I hear a lot of things about how vulnerable our grid is to outside hacking, and
right.
What happens, you know, with the communication system if that's taken down?
Well, we have redundancies built into our networks, but if the whole grid or one big section of it, like our cell towers are all fed by commercial power, right? And then they have generators for backup, so like we do in our central offices too. But if that went down, it would cause a major concern, like the fires, like all these different tragedies, disasters we've had, natural disasters lately. It affects us, but we do have redundancies built in as far as all of our network goes, and that helps quite a bit.
So Mike, thank you very much for your words. It's our tradition to give a book in your honor to Ross Elementary School, so before you go today, you'll please sign the book plate here. We also have for you this year's Rotary coin, which I think is really pretty, but also it has the 4-way test on the back. So we'd like you to enjoy that, and if you see fit, please pass it on to someone else. And finally, last but not least, I know you are a past Rotarian, and I would like to personally offer the invitation to you to become a member of our club. So, and I'm very sincere about that. Absolutely. We'll talk privately with her about that. Thank you, Mike. So today I will leave you with the words of, next week we are at, too many papers here, at the top of the tower And we would like you to register for that, please, today. I guess they need early numbers. And our speaker will be Attorney General Derek Schmidt, who will talk to us about being a smart consumer. So that sounds really good. And today I would like to leave you with the words of Andrew Young, and he said at this year's Rotary International Convention, Rotary is about giving it back and paying it forward. So please stand, and we'll close with the four-way test plus one. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all